I didn't do my Friday Q&A last week because we had like a wildfire right by our house, right? And it was like just, you know, one of those things where I was like, I'm a little stressed out right now. And it had been, like just been a long week of it, right? We're right near. Actually, I was like, oh, this is the first year nothing bad happened on my birthday. Actually, on July 17th, the Battle Mountain Complex fire started, which is like the largest fire in Oregon, and it's I'm fucking smiling, but it's like a tragic fire. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So let me turn live chat on. Chat filter, all messages. There we go. I don't like how complicated they've made turning live like the chat functions on YouTube now. Especially I'm live right now, so I need to be able to function it. But so we're gonna wait for some folks to roll in, and then I will get my tea going. And as a reminder, I start answering your questions when my tea is done brewing. So I'm gonna make this honey orchard uh oolong tea. Come on, brain. I want to make this honey orchard from Yunnan sourcing. I have not had it before. Um, so I hope it's good. Honey orchards can either be really good or kind of tannin-ish, like a little too mouth-drying. Hey everybody, rolling in. Get it open here. Ooh, she smells nice. Okay, I'm gonna get my water going because I know it's gonna take a little bit of time. I already preset it. I was like, she wants to be at 205 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a little hotter than, let's say, like a white tea or something that brews really fast. I don't know how this tea is yet. This is a honey oolong from Yunnan Sourcing, and it's from they have two websites. They have yunansourcing.com and yunansourcing.us. They're the same company. It's just one ships from China and one ships from the U.S. And there's nothing wrong with the one in the U.S. I just find that the teas are a little higher quality when they come from the .com one, and I think it's just because they have more varieties over there, or they are getting like access to like the new batches before it gets shipped to the U.S. I don't know. But this is from 2024 spring, so this is from this year. Um, so could I please enable closed captions on my YouTube channel? They already are. You have to turn them on in your settings. So they're automatically on, and I even have it set to translate. But just so you know, when a video uploads, especially something like a live, it can take 24 to 48 hours before YouTube generates the captions. Right, so if it has just uploaded and there's no captions, it's not because I haven't added them, it's because YouTube hasn't generated them yet. But yeah, I've had a really, it's been stressful. There's fires everywhere. Oregon is on the fuck fire right now, and we live somewhere that has the capacity to go poof because we're in the mountains, and it's the 1 year that we don't have cattle. And so our pastures, like 40 acres around us, are real tall. They have a real high fuel level because there's no cows out there eating down the pasture, which is good. It's good to let it rest, but also if a fire comes, there's a lot more fuel, so we're kind of on edge about it. I am ready for fall already. I know I was already, it's only been a couple months since I was like, oh, I'm so ready for summer, but anymore, it's like, we got maybe one good month of summer before it was too smoky to be outside, and so it's just different now, but it's hard. It's hard. So somebody said, how can I find anything specific on your videos? Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. So the best way is to go through my playlist. Like if you're looking for a particular herb, a type of herb, you'll see it separated between like blooms, berries, stems, roots, leaves, right? And then you can go through like the tinctures, elixirs, balm, salves. And so like definitely look at my playlists. And then I've been trying to re-upload these live videos, right? Like, so you'll watch this one and another one, and then like I'll download it and I'll re-upload it on a Wednesday. And when I do that, I go through and I talk about like the top topics like in the description, so you know which one to look at. So let's see how this new tea fares. I hope it's going to be good. Oolongs, I either really like oolongs or I really don't. So it's kind of a bit of a gamble to do it live because this is what I'm drinking for the next half an hour as I answer questions. Now, that timer that I just flipped over is not just timing my tea, it's timing for when I start the Q&A. I like to give people time to show up and myself time to like settle in and like say what I've been up to and things like that. Oh, so I've been saving up and I'm just excited about it. So I'm telling anybody who will listen, which just means my husband's tired of hearing about it. I have been saving up for one of those cremini ice cream maker things. They're fucking expensive. They are. But I had been saving up and I found a coupon code and they went on sale for Prime Day. So I got one and I'm super excited about it because I've just been making ice cream like crazy out of like my milk kefir and raw milk and raw fruit and raw eggs. And yesterday I made a walnut banana bread ice cream. Yeah, and a lemon cream one because lemon ice cream is like my favorite, but it's also like the hardest to find. And I don't want a sorbet; I want an ice cream, right? And so I made one, and that was super tasty. And right now, as I speak, I have a cantaloupe gelato in the freezer freezing. You have to freeze it for 24 hours before you put it through the machine. But man, I am so excited! I love ice cream. It is and can be a really nutrient dense food, right? Like the stuff from the store, I get it. It's full of like corn syrup. It's got antifreeze in it, food grade antifreeze in it, so it's soft. It's got all kinds of additives and nasty things in it, right? But you know, like gums and coloring and synthetic flavors, it's not good for your body. But when you make it at home, when you make it yourself, it can be like as nutrient packed as you want it. Mine's all like raw eggs, raw milk, maple syrup, honey, fruit, you know, things like that, and I'm like just over the moon about it. And so I told myself that I could justify it because it would help me store and use up a bunch of the milk we have from our goats because we like 3.5 gallons a day. All right, it's a lot of milk to use up. But the truth is, it doesn't really take all that much unless it was like a big industrial one. So I'm just also making ice cream and barely putting a dent in any of my milk kefir or my milk. But I'm really got it. Yeah, I think, I don't know, it's been pretty great. And I've only had it for like 3 days. And so I'm really, into it because I just got it. But I've also been fermenting a bunch of food. I got a bunch of beets done. I've got a bunch of like beet apple sauerkraut going. And I've got a bunch of, I'm going to try to make a ton of zucchini pickles this year just because my cucumbers are not happy. I don't know if it's the weather and the heat probably. And so, but my zucchini are zucchini. They don't care. They'll grow wherever you put them, And so I'm just going to make a bunch of zucchini pickles and shredding a bunch I really like zucchini fritters are really good. Like fried zucchini. We had that for breakfast. Like little pancakes. I like to use panko breading with them though because it makes them crunchier. So tea is ready. Smells nice. It smells earthy, which is supposed to be a honey oolong. So in theory, it should taste more floral than earthy. So we will see. It's hot. Hot, hot, hot. It's a good color, right? You can look at the soup, is what they call it, right? To see if it's like golden or whatnot. It's got a smooth mouthfeel. It doesn't have a whole lot of flavor. It doesn't taste bad, but I only went 3 minutes. I could have gone 5, and I didn't put a whole lot in there, but it's very drinkable. Oh, it's got like undertones, right? I can taste it. It's very... I like that it has a smooth mouthfeel. Sometimes the oolongs are just too drying in the mouth. Okay, so right off the bat, here's an all caps question. If you have questions, say your question. I'll do my best. Let me flip over. This question was, the first one I saw was, what can you do about burning mouth syndrome? You need to go get your B12 checked right now. And you need to get a urine test, an MMA urine test to see like if you're actually like using B12. It's so related to B12 deficiency, and it goes undiagnosed constantly because doctors don't give a shit about B12. They don't look at it as important, but it's super important. And one of the symptoms of, and there's hundreds and hundreds of symptoms of B12 deficiency, but a big symptom is burning mouth, burning skin, burning hands, burning feet, neuropathy, anything like that. Definitely get your B12 levels checked. And then when they find that they're probably under the level of 400, even though blood serum tests aren't super accurate because they test all of the B12, but there's a difference between active and inactive B12. So what if you test for 400 on the lab scale and they're like, all right, you're like 2 points within range, good job. But what if none of that is being used? What if only 10 of it is active? So you need to do the urine test to check, and you have to do these tests before you start supplementing, because if not, it throws the whole test off. Question, anything for tinnitus? Tinnitus is complicated because it can have a lot of causes, right? B12 can be a cause, actually. Magnesium deficiency, really high cortisol. I had severe tinnitus out of the blue, right? I woke up one night completely drenched in sweat, and my ears were ringing so loud it's what woke me up, right? And so I tried to get an appointment with a doctor. It took me 4 months to see this specialist guy. I walk in, and this guy just needed to retire. He was just done being a doctor. He was like, you have tinnitus. Here's a pamphlet. You can go to this website. There's nothing for it. And I was like, hey, but this happened when it started. Oh, it's probably not related. I'm like, yeah, but it felt like it was. No. You're just going to have tinnitus. There's no known cause. Well, fuck you, guy. Obviously, you're tired of your job. So I got my cortisol tested with a spit test. Blood tests are pretty much pointless for cortisol, right? I ordered an online spit test for cortisol. My cortisol was dangerous, like gonna have an adrenal crisis high. And once I started working on that, it really lowered my tinnitus, and now I don't really have it unless I'm in a super quiet room, right? But I don't notice it anymore. But it also could be from an EBV infection. You could have mineral deficiencies. So just start looking for your root cause and never just accept that it's just the thing that happens. That just means that they don't want to look and help you, right? Okay, question. Let's see. Question, what kind of goats do you have? And thank you for your knowledge. We have 2 Nubians, Saanen or Sainen, however you prefer to say it. And we have Honey, who is an Alpine. And so I plan on this fall we will breed. We have like a Nubian, an English Nubian buck. He'll cover the Nubians. But then we have like some Saanen bucks, and he will cover the Saanen, but also the Alpine because they make a good mix. Question, the wild yam and chamomile pills bring your period back after 3 years in menopause? Yeah, if you went into menopause just because you had a severe hormone deficiency, yeah, if you correct your hormones, your period can come back. But it shouldn't be like, oh, now I'm no longer in menopause. It should be looked at like you weren't supposed to be in menopause. You just had a severe hormone deficiency that your body wasn't ready for yet, right? Because if you're in true menopause and you start supporting your hormone levels, you won't start bleeding again. Right, that's something to know. Question, do you have any daily herbal suggestions for emphysema? Yeah, mullein infusion all day long. Make sure you strain it well. If you can tolerate milk, it goes amazing with full fat milk for lung health, right? I really like mullein. She's safe to use on a regular basis, but you could also work with like cordyceps mushroom or reishi mushroom, either or. You could combine them, but go slow. When you first start taking either of those mushrooms, it can start making you feel really jittery because it starts increasing your energy and your oxygen levels. But they are very well known for increasing oxygen levels in the body, so they're fantastic for anybody who's got emphysema or any sort of anything that's going on with your lungs, asthma, whatever. It can help. Mullein, cordyceps, reishi mushroom. Okay, do you have any... Oh, I saw that one. How much grass-fed butter is a healthy to consume every day for the K2 vitamin? Thank you. I'm not afraid of butter. As much as you like to eat, if you follow the Weston Price Foundation, you'll see people putting huge amounts of butter. I would not just rely on butter for vitamin K2. Right, I would also consider like getting like raw milk, but also like if you make it into milk kefir, and you guys hear me talk about milk kefir a lot, you'll end up like tripling the amount of K2 present, right? Fermented foods are also just a good option for vitamin K2 in general, because it sounds weird, but the bacteria that's making like the lactobacilli and stuff that's like fermenting food, it is meat. So when you eat it, the fermented foods actually have K2 in them, so they're fantastic for that. Butter is good, grass-fed dairy, grass-fed meat, grass-fed fats, tallow, all that kind of stuff. But the trick is, it has to be grass-fed. And you have to be careful because they'll say grass-fed, but what that really means is like the cows were on grass for like 4 months, but they finished them for like 6 months on grain. So be discerning, ask if it is really grass fed or not. Um, so thank you so much, Misty. She says, question, my brother has liver cirrhosis and I just became his living donor. What can we both do for liver care leading to surgery? You know, I really like bitter herbs for this. Of course, he may or may not be on medication, so make sure to check for that. But a really simple thing that is really gentle and something that you can use on a regular basis would be roasted dandelion root tea, right? It's fantastic for supporting liver health, digestive health, gallbladder health. All that is connected. Remember, we're not a car and these parts are individual, right? But I really like roasted dandelion root tea for this. I would also dig into like things like particular vitamins like niacin, thiamine, like vitamin B1, and the Bs in general for supporting liver function. A lot of people don't realize that when we have various vitamin B deficiencies like riboflavin and all this type of stuff, we can end up actually having poor liver function, right? And I know he's got cirrhosis, so he's like really deep into it, but like he's going to be growing a part of your liver and you're going to want to be regrowing a part of yours. So learning about this stuff, a good thing to do just overall would be brewer's yeast infusions. I have a video on that. It gets you all the B vitamins you need excluding B12 because that comes from meat. But it's something to look into. Okay, let me jump down here. Question, could I make sauerkraut from Celtic sea salt? Yes, I like to use Celtic sea salt. I prefer it over Redmond's when I'm fermenting food. I find more often, I'm going to get a bunch of hate for this, I find more often that the Celtic sea salt makes a more reliable brine and I don't end up with a bunch of like cam yeast and stuff growing, whereas if I use Redmond's, I almost always get some sort of yeast growth that's not desirable. And I think it's because I don't think it necessarily means that it's bad, but they're mining it from the earth and it's unrefined. So naturally on the stone that they're grinding up, that's basically making it into salt, it's going to have yeast and dirt and particles like that. Whereas the Celtic sea salt, they're like harvesting that from the ocean and they're making it traditionally, right? And so it just doesn't have the same level of potential yeast bacteria. So I love the Celtic salt for that. Question, food aversion solutions, 40-year-old woman. Well, have you learned about ARFID, avoidant restrictive food intake disorder? Learning about why you're avoiding foods could go a long way, right? If you learn about these textures and these reasons and these things, like you might be able to learn how to adapt, learn how to work with that. My daughter lived with ARFID for a long time. It's a type of an eating disorder, actually. And so it's kind of like learning how to work with these textures, how you have to add crunchy or soft, depending on what your aversion is, and exposure. Eating small amounts at a time instead of trying to force yourself to eat huge amounts of times, all things like that. Okay. Thank you so much for the super misty question. What are great uses for rue? I hear it's great, but I read otherwise. I don't work with rue a whole lot. She's pretty good topically for like stimulating like blood flow, healing wounds and things like that. But she can be hard on the liver, which is probably something that you've read because you were saying like you've read otherwise, right? And so I personally try to stay away from herbs that tell me they don't want to have like an internal relationship. I mean, it's not that I never use them. It's just like if you don't want me to eat you, if you're telling me that there's something in you that's going to hurt me, I respect that. It's like a boundary, right? So, it's just something to consider. Thank you again for the super misty question. Help with appetite and weight gain. That's a great question. So for those of you who have been watching me for a long time, you'll see that I've finally gained weight. If you go back to my old videos, like I was like 95 pounds on like a well-fed day with all of my clothes on. Right. And I wasn't healthy. I wasn't healthy, but I had been homeless for all of my youth, and so my hunger signals turned off. So I didn't have an eating disorder so much as I had disordered eating. I no longer got hunger cues, right? So in my mind, like barely eating until like one big meal at dinner, like I didn't realize that I was starving, right? Um, so the best thing that I did to turn my appetite back on, I did two things. I started eating five small like snack type meals a day. It doesn't even have to be a full meal, just like five times five keeps you alive. 500 calories, or you need to get to 2,500 calories minimum. Right. And so if I am like eating five little snacks a day that lead up to that, it really helps. And it starts turning your hunger cues back on, right? And that starts lowering your cortisol levels. And so I started in the morning. It's so hard because we don't have the appetite in our morning because our cortisol is really high and it's already like digesting our body, right? And then what I started doing was working with small doses of cyproheptadine, which is an old school allergy medicine. You have to get a prescription for it. I use the Push Health. I'm like, I prefer this for my antihistamines, please. Right, and they'll send you a big bottle of it. It's cheap, and if you don't have insurance, it's still it's like $10 for this stuff, right? And I was taking the 4 milligram pills, but I was breaking them into fours, right? So I was just taking microdoses. It really stimulates your appetite. It is actually one of the things that they use for children who are failing to thrive to increase their appetite, so it works really well. But the main thing that I like about cyproheptadine is that it lowers your stress hormones. It lowers your cortisol, and that is one thing that I used when I was dealing with my tinnitus, right? When I realized that my cortisol was really high, and so like I managed and I worked hard to gain like 48 pounds. And I know that sounds, people are like, oh, that's so scary, but like I'm telling you right now, all you skinny ladies out there who think you eat enough, you probably do not. You probably eat less than a toddler requires, and it's not a judgment. I've been there. I'm just saying, like, I also thought I ate a lot, right? Until you start tracking it and until you start looking at it, the only reason that we are not gaining weight unless we have some severe diagnosis or malnutrition or malabsorption issue going on in our gut is because we are flat out under eating, right? And we're made to be afraid of carbohydrates and all that kind of stuff. Like, my health improved 100 times fold, right? And I was able to have orgasms, which is a big win for me, right? Like, I always thought, oh, I'm like asexual, my body just can't do this because of years of trauma. No, I was just starving and my body didn't have the energy, let alone feel safe enough to let that energy release, and it was just, it was worth it, every inch of it. Okay, question. Have you heard of and used Ace Man from aloe vera? Heard it's a cure-all. I have heard of it. I probably pronounced it wrong. I am really hesitant when we start taking specific compounds out of an herb, when we look at this herb and we say, oh, you're great, but this part of you is better and the rest of you is worthless, right? Because we don't know what happens long term when we start pretending like we know better than nature. If you want that compound in your body, if you want the healing properties of that compound, work with whole aloe. There will always be something in the plant that is making another part of the plant function better or damage us less, right? Nothing in nature is singular. Say that again with me. Nothing in nature is singular. If there's a compound in aloe that's helping your health, it probably needs these other compounds with it. And when you can extract it, it can become dangerous, right? So I'm always really hesitant about that, right? Okay, question. April, should tinctures and infusion bottles be sterilized before use? And no, what is your preferred method? And if so, is what of your preferred method? So when it comes to like the bottles that you'll be putting them in, like if you're like putting them in a tincture bottle after you're done, those come pre-sterilized from the company, and it's because they were molten glass when they were made, right? But also for like these types of bottles, I typically run them through my sanitizing dishwasher. I have like a commercial one in my Apothecary where I just hit a button and in like 80 seconds it's done. It's amazing. I want one in my normal house. But you could use your sanitizing setting of your dishwasher. Now, but when it comes, but I don't know, I like debate it because like what do we use to sanitize things? alcohol, right? So it's not really that you need to sanitize something for a tincture. If it comes to infusions, the boiling water is sanitizing it, you know. You can sanitize if you're like selling to the public, but like I use big, when I make tinctures, I have big stainless steel barrels and they run through my sanitizing dishwasher, right? But if I'm just making them for myself, I wouldn't worry about it. I really wouldn't. Thank you so much for the super Rebecca E. She says, "Hi April, do you have any suggestions to treat eczema? Are you no longer selling balms and salves in your shop? Thank you in advance." Um, so I don't have salves and balms in my shop right now. I'm working on basically the only thing that I'm allowing myself to have in my shop at the moment are things that I can get help making. Um, the company that's helping me make my creams, they have been really fantastic. We're finally coming to the end of that because I'm also testing my creams. Anyhow, once we get a little bit more of a relationship, I'm gonna nudge them into the idea of making my balms for me. I think they'll do it because this is the first company that I have found that is willing to work with real herbs when making a cream. Almost everywhere else, they just want to use chemicals and essential oils. They don't want to work with any herbs, but this company has been willing to. So once I'm really pushing my creams into them and they're seeing how much business I'm giving them, I'm going to approach them about making my balms and myself. So with that being said, I have a bunch that are ready to be poured up on my own. And I'm probably gonna, it's so hot, right? So I'm just gonna wait and I'm gonna release those in the fall, right? Just so I have them. But when it comes to what is best for treating your eczema, the answer is always something's going on with your gut health and something's going on with your liver health. Topically, you could use a chamomile infused oil. I like avocado oil. I would stay away from the heavy PUFA oils. You could add some tallow into that. You could also just do like a chamomile compress. You could infuse it with uncooked oatmeal. You can make your own oatmeal infused oil. It's fantastic for that. Comfrey would be another good option topically. Internally, I want you to start working on your gut health. I want you to get brave and start making your own milk kefir, your own water kefir, your own fermented foods. I want you to get all rancid seed oils out of your diet. If it's vegetable oil, if it's canola, if it's grapeseed, if it's sunflower, it is fucking killing you with oxidation inside of your body. You want to get that out of you, right? Then you could start working with bitter herbs. You could start working with burdock, dandelion root. You could even do a little bit of Oregon grape. Go slow with that. When you start stimulating your liver function, you start getting these toxins out of your body and then your eczema backs off, right? But also, and here's a random thing, I always think if people have like big skin issues, whether it's acne or psoriasis, eczema, whatever's happening, get your vitamin A levels tested. Two things can happen. If you have really low vitamin A, you can have all of these symptoms. But also, if you have really high vitamin A, like vitamin A toxicity, you can have all these symptoms. So seeing where you're sitting at with your vitamin A status is a really good idea, because if it's really low and you start taking vitamin A, it can start helping your body. If it's really high and so you cut out some vitamin A from your diet and start working on getting that toxicity down, it can help your skin. So it's just kind of something that I think people overlook. Let me jump down here. Thank you so much for the super Lane Driscoll. How best to use wild yam for PCOS? If you wanted to use wild yam for that, you could start using it topically as a cream. You can also use it as a supplement in small amounts. I do have a wild yam chamomile supplement, that like synergism capsule, that helps with that type of stuff. But also, I would actually look more into pine pollen. I come across more information about pine pollen being supportive for PCOS than I do wild yam, right? I mean, they're kind of do the same thing in the body. It's all about making the precursor like DHEA, but like it's something to look into as well with the pine pollen. But with a topical amount, you could consider cycling with it, right? Like you would with progesterone, like on like 7 through 14 of your cycle, right? And that would probably be pretty helpful. Question: I have lots of infused oils that have been sitting sitting for a year, some strained and some with herbs. Is it still good? If the herbs are dry, yes, you're fine. If the herbs were wet, probably not. Right? Get them strained out. It's not that herbal oils really go bad. They just start losing their potency over time, and 2 years is about the drop-off mark. Right now, you have a real potent oil, but A year from now, it's not that it won't be usable, it might just not be as potent. You might find the one that has the herbs in it will have a little bit more oxidation effect, so it may not be as potent, but as long as they smell fine, I'm telling you, you will not mistake the smell of rancid oils unless you've done the mistake of covering that up with essential oils, right? If it smells like death, it wants to kill you. Rancid oil, oh my god, it smells like a dead mouse crawled into like a moldy gym sock and then got like fucked by a skunk. It's horrendous. It really is bad. Okay, one more last question, not from me, this is what they're saying. Is there an easy way to search for a particular subject via here or Instagram without having to scroll through every post? I'm definitely not tech savvy at all, thanks. So if you are looking for a specific topic, I want you to take advantage of the Google algorithm, right? So if you type April Graham and then type in like Mullen, right, or whatever you're interested in, it might pop up my YouTube video. Other times you can type in She is of the Woods Mullen and it'll pop it up, right? I will admit that sometimes I do that when I'm needing a link to one of my videos and I don't want to dig through all my videos. I wish YouTube would allow people to search within my channel. It's ridiculous that they don't have that function, right? Like anywhere else I should be able to search within a post or within a thing, but they just don't have it. So I use Google to search things about myself and then it pops up if I have a video or a post. Instagram's a little harder. It probably won't pop anything up from Instagram necessarily. You do kind of have to dig through those. I do have 2 pinned posts on my Instagram where people ask their questions. And then if I reply, you'll see the reply as a reel. If you select top comments on that, it'll show you everything I replied to. So you can see if their question is related to your question. That would be an easier way to search. Question, can you use Yarrow Spritz for acne daily? Yeah. It could be a little drying, so if Yarrow dries you out, you might consider working with like some high quality coconut oil every couple days in the evening if it doesn't break you out. I love coconut oil. It's like one of the main things that I put on my face these days, especially in the summertime when it's really hot. I like how fast it absorbs. I don't have to like wash it off in the morning, but I get the unrefined. It's gonna smell like coconut. I don't like the refined stuff topically. Question, how much milk or water kefir per day for healing, reducing SIBO? It really depends on the person. If I was dealing with SIBO, I would also start making L-Reuteri yogurt at home. I love milk kefir. So once you're on it and you know it's not like causing a ton, just start working your way up, but like a quart a day, right? But don't start there right away. Like if you have digestive issues and things like that and you're starting to heal with milk kefir, I want you to start with like 1 tablespoon and work your way up. My mom started with it. I was like, come on, Mom, let's do it. Do it. Do it. You've had stomach issues for so long. And she could only do like 1 tablespoon at first, but we're 2 months in and she can just drink it freely now and she loves it. She likes it plain because she likes buttermilk and so it tastes a lot like that, right? Question, what do you think about bloodroot for skin stuff? If you feel like you need to literally eat a hole into your flesh, more power to you. But the thing to know about things like skin cancer and stuff like that is they are mutated cells. And so when we do damage to our skin, it's just going to mutate more cells. I personally wouldn't use it. It's like really strong puke, poke, purge, bleed medicine, right? From a time where we didn't know any better or we had to do severe things. But like, if you're going to use it, I wouldn't use it just casually, right? It's so crazy. People put it in their black drawing salve all the time because it used to be used back in the day for like the plague and things like that because they thought they would burn it off and they just kept using it. And then I get messages from people all the time that are like, how do I heal this wound that this black salve that I bought from somebody besides you caused? And I'm like, oh my god, right? Like, and it's just it can be dangerous, so be really careful with it. Question, I am 3 months postpartum, just had my 5th all back to back. How can I best replenish my body moving forward? All things nourishing herbal infusions, right? Lots of Celtic sea salt, lots of healthy animal fats, lots of proteins, lots of seaweed infusions. You need to be like throwing minerals at your body like crazy. And honestly, you're probably pretty deficient in vitamin K1 and K2, right? Because like the babies suck the marrow from our bones. Right, but not really, but you know what I mean? Like, we ended up really calcium deficient. So if you can eat dairy, that's a big deal. But I would be making sure that I was taking like a vitamin K1 and K2 supplement alongside of it, even if you're getting it from food. You probably won't be able to take in enough from food that your body would be able to replenish, right? But you know, basically, like looking at all the micro, macronutrients and minerals and vitamins. The root cause protocol, even though that's more for people who are constantly iron deficient because they're low on copper, but like the concepts in there of like building up your minerals would be really great for you or anybody who's just been depleted by anything. Question: what herbal infused chamomile. Cut out there for a second. I love chamomile for this too because she's more effective at knocking back itching than, let's say, cortisone is, right? I really love her for that. I would do like a plantain oatmeal chamomile infused oil would be amazing for bee stings. And at the end of it, you can throw it when you're like stirring your pot before you pour it. Either put in some kaolin clay and or activated charcoal or both, because what will happen is when that dries on, it'll pull out the toxins like you're putting mud on there, right? And so that would be really fantastic. Question: other than zero drop shoes, would you recommend anything else for chronic foot pain? So if you don't want to do the zero drop shoes, you can still get the tools that they sell that come along for conditioning the feet to zero drop shoes, like little like toe spreaders and like little massagers and bands for the bottom of the feet and stuff like that, because these are going to be really important for repairing those broken down muscles in your feet, right? You could also do like evening foot soaks with magnesium flakes. Epsom salt's okay. I just prefer magnesium chloride over the Epsom salt, right? But I would still look into doing like you don't have to wear the zero drop shoes if you really don't want to, but look into all of the accessories they share for people who are healing their feet with zero drop shoes, and that would probably go a long way. Thank you so much for the super Raina Elmer question. Which herb can help an ulcer? My husband is messed up right now. Thanks. You're so cool. Thank you. I try to be cool. No, I really don't. So if he has an ulcer, he's probably got H. pylori, right? So, first of all, working with something like mastic gum to kill the H. pylori would be really helpful. But then you could start doing like linden infusions would be really good. Slippery elm would be really good. Mallow root infusions would be really good. You are attempting to basically coat the stomach lining, right? You're trying to make a band-aid over this ulcer so it can heal. And then if you can get him to do it, if you can start working with like L-reuteri yogurt that you make at home or milk kefir that you make at home, that would really go a long way to like healing those ulcers and getting rid of that H. pylori. But I really like mastic gum for H. pylori. It doesn't even have to swallow it. You can get the mastic gum that you chew. You can get supplements. If you do, I would make sure that they didn't have any nasty fillers in them, because the fillers can do more damage, right? That the mastic gum can't help. And so that's what I would do, definitely. Okay, let me jump down here. Question: any suggestions for discomfort, pain from, lost it, connective tissue disorder? Joints are like jello, but muscles are very tight, especially neck and shoulder. So, you might really look into high dose vitamin C, which would support your collagen function. Right, and so by proxy, it would support your tissue and muscle and cartilage health, and that might really help with the pain. I want to say my brain served that up to me because I was reading about that, because I carry that as a genetic marker. I don't have it, but I carry it, and so I was really interested in. I saw a lot of people talking about like the high dose vitamin C protocol for it, so that might be something to dig into for you. Question, let me see. I saw that one question. I bought some vodka and now I do not know what tincture to make first. What do you recommend for a first tincture? I live near Alberta, so we have much of the same things growing. Well, this time of year, you could find some mullein. You're probably not far off from your goldenrod popping out. You could hunt down an elderberry tree this fall. Just get curious about what is growing around you right now, right? So we have similar climates, but I'm also in high mountain and desert, so like It's hard to say like what is actually like in season for you, even if we have similar things, because it's really fucking hot here right now, so a lot of things have died back, and then we don't have much coming on until fall, right? But you could look for a lemon balm, catnip blooms that are coming on right now. I would just find something that is growing near you that you feel called to, and just jump in and just do it. And then if you just do little jars at a time, like these little like half pint jars or whatever, you could make a bunch out of your bottle. So you don't have to just settle and be like, oh, I want to pick the right one the first time. Be like, I made this one, and then I made that one, and then I made this one, right? Because remember, you're taking this drops at a time. So a little jar like this will last you a long time, right? So you can kind of get creative and decide to make all different types. Question. Let's see. What herbs are good for belly fat and hypertension? Belly fat can be from all kinds of things. Usually it's from high cortisol and or unchecked blood sugar, so that is something to look into. If you had like really high cortisol, you could work with something like blue vervain or tulsi. There's so many nervines are going to help. I really like milky oat because I feel like she's less invasive, like, or even oat straw infusions. If you have high blood pressure, hibiscus and or specifically Ceylon cinnamon. I like them together. I even have a synergism capsule that I make specifically for blood pressure support. But if you're taking medication already, you need to be aware that, like with hibiscus, it can lower your blood pressure by 10 points quickly. Right, so like if you use that alongside your medication, you need to pay attention so you don't end up with like really low blood pressure. There are even studies out there, like real studies out there about hibiscus, like being able to replace high blood pressure medication, and so it's something to be aware of. Question, where can I get legit milk kefir if I don't want to make it? You might have to find somebody around you. Ask if somebody is making milk kefir in your area. Ask on your local Facebook homesteading pages, groups, and things like that. There's probably somebody out there making milk kefir in your area, and then be like, hey, if I like pay you, weekly or monthly, could you like make an extra batch for me, offer to buy the milk or what have you? That would probably be your best bet. Somebody's got to be making it at home because the stuff from the store is fake. Okay, excuse me. What can I do for an enlarged spleen? No pain. Is castor oil pack good for this? You could. I don't know a lot about the spleen, if I'm going to be honest. Like, I know what it is, but I've not, like, had a lot of personal experience with it, and a lot of stuff I know is from, like, dealing with, like, my own self or my family stuff or what I've dug into. But I do believe that like supports like, and there's probably some sort of enzyme missing in your diet. If I was dealing with something like an enlarged spleen, castor oil packs would be a good option, but also, have you considered eating spleen? I know that sounds crazy, but if you start working with like versus like if you go like and get a spleen supplement from ancestral, I like ancestral supplements, right? They're a pretty good option, but you can shop around. Probably be made from beef spleen or something like that. You might end up giving your body the nutrient and or enzyme that you might be missing that's causing the enlarged spleen. Right. So that is something that I would consider and look into, and of course, those supplements have been around for a long time, so there'll be hundreds of reviews for you to dig through. You might get lucky and find somebody talking about using it for that. Okay, I think I'm going to answer one more question and I'm going to hop off. Okay, what to do for plantar fasciitis in both feet? I want you to very, very, very slowly and carefully transition into zero drop shoes. I know that they're going to tell you that you need all these special arch supports and that you need all this and you need all of that, but as a person who has lived with it and a person who watched my husband live with it after he stepped on a ladder wrong, the thing that has healed our feet is zero drop shoes, because the more you support those muscles, the weaker and weak they get, right? And when they're weak, you get plantar fasciitis, and it's horrible. It's a horrible pain. It takes time. You have to go slow. You have to learn how to repair your feet from the damage that modern day shoes have done. Why? We're not naturally supposed to walk on a high heel angle. Even if you're like, I don't wear high heels. Yeah, you do, because it's not zero drop. It's not to the ground. You're always walking elevated, and then your toes push back, and then it messes up this part, of your muscle on your foot. Pretend this is a foot, even though it's my hand, right? And so what happens is that muscle gets weaker and weaker and weaker, and then overstretched because the way you're walking, and it causes pain. I used to not be able to stand barefoot for more than 4 or 5 minutes, and now I don't have any problems with my feet. It took me about 6 months. You have to go slow. You have to go slow, so slow. But I swear to God, from my personal experience with myself and my husband, and a lot of people, if you read about it, if you go zero drop, you will no longer have these issues with your feet. But it takes time, and you have to go slow because your feet have been fucked up for years, right, from these shoes. But anyhow, so thank you so much for joining me. If you would like to support my capacity to teach freely, to dump my brain out now and then, to just be a real human, to keep tea in my pot and a roof over my head, consider becoming a member. It's just a way to throw me a couple bucks a month. There's nothing hidden behind a paywall. You do get access to videos early, but if you can't afford to pay, I don't even want you to worry about it, because I release a new video every weekend. There's a couple more coming out now. I need to record a bunch more, but there's like 3 or 4 videos there that only members get to watch first, right? Even if you can't do that, or even if you can, make sure that you like, comment, share, subscribe, turn on notifications. You can also call things home from my Apothecary. I make all kinds of stuff. I've got books, I've got synergism capsules. There's something for everybody. You can use the one-time code TEATIME, TEATIME, to save 10% off anything that you would like. All of that helps me support my existence and to teach freely, so it makes a big, big difference. So thank you so much for hanging out, folks, and I'll see you next week. Bye.